So I've been working on this scratcher with the 20-inch drive wheel, and I took the old 7 horsepower Tecumseh off it and put a Predator 459 motor on it. This is the biggest one so far I've had. My other ones are 420 cc. So that came off my my mud motor, and that was quite a bit of work trying to get that off, but I got it off and changed it from the, here's what used to be on it. This is a 13 tooth sprocket and then a 54 inch or 54 tooth. So right now I've got a 40 series clutch on and a 7.5 inch driven pulley. I don't know if it's going to work because most of the guys on the 459 Predator website said instead of using a 40 series, use a 44 on these motors. But Comet said you can use these 40 series up to an 18 horsepower, and this is a 16, so hopefully it'll work. If it doesn't, I'll have to change it out. But yeah, so I took the old jack shaft off, and I put I actually put two sprockets on. And the idea behind this was if I had enough torque with this 11 tooth one, I could just take the chain off and then slide them over. There's enough room to slide the 11 over and then put the chain on the 13. And this is a 14-inch long jack shaft, which is 3/4 of an inch in diameter. And here's where did my cheat sheet go? So with the 13, so I got a 20-inch drive wheel scratcher, and it's got a 40 series with a 7.5 inch diameter driven clutch. And then I've got the number of teeth of sprockets that could go on that jack shaft, and I chose 11 and 13. On my old one, my first scratcher with the 440 on it, I have a 14 tooth sprocket, and the start ratio is 12.5 to 1, and that's enough to get started, but sometimes I have to get out and push because it wants to dig down into the ice. So I didn't go with the 14. I do have one. So the 14 is good for speed. So the starting ratio is 12.5. The final ratio is 5.5. Well, actually, this is wrong. So my other scratcher is an 18.5 drive wheel. So if I use the 14 on this 20-inch drive wheel, the theoretical speed would be 41 miles per hour at 3,600 RPM. But with this start ratio and more torque with that motor, I think I'm going to have a problem getting started. So I went with a 13, and that's a start ratio of 13.5. Final ratio 5.5 to 1. So the theoretical speed of this should be 38 miles per hour, but with drag and everything, maybe 35, 34. And then you can see how the speeds change. They drop down with the less teeth you have on that sprocket. So I'm starting off with the 11, and that'll give me a 16 to 1 start ratio, 6.5 to 1 final ratio with 32 miles an hour theoretically. But if I can get like 27, 28, that would be good. And then if that start ratio is good enough, then I I'll go with that for now. The main problem is the start ratios are too low, and I got to get out and push to get going because it digs down in the ice. If you didn't watch my earlier video of this with the original gearing on it, it didn't have a start and a final ratio. It was just a set ratio of 25-1 with a max speed of 8.5-9 miles per hour theoretical. I mean, it's a torque monster at 25, but it goes really slow. So I'm afraid I'm just gonna have to try it out and see how this ratio works first. If not, I'll drop it down to a 10-tooth sprocket, and if that still doesn't work, then I'll go with an 8-inch driven, and that should get me around 20-1, which is pretty close to the original design, which is 25-1, but it's going to kill my speed. So back here on my other one, on my original one, this was turned around, so the spring was on the outside and the motor was moved over a little bit more. But these come with the red spring, and if you mount it with the spring inboard, you don't have to change you can use the original spring. If you mount it with the spring outboard, you have to take it apart and put a yellow spring in so it'll run. The problem with this is the pulley and everything's way off to the side. So again, I'll see how that works. If not, I'll have to swap it and then I'll move the motor over. So the way I've got it now is I've got a 3/8 inch bolt in there. And when I mocked it up with a 420. I could get a 3/8 and I could get a 1/4 inch bolt in here without having to cut a new channel, because the channel's too far over. So I'm going to have to take this off and eventually cut some new slots for the bolts to go in. But I'm not going to do that until I get the belt in hand and then get the belt on and figure out exactly how far forward and back it should be, and I'll just either drill a hole or cut a really short channel, because the way it is now, these grooves for the bolts to go through are about 2.5 inches long and then 4 inches long on the other side. So I got that ordered. Everything seems to be going good. I'm waiting on I think 12 and 5/8 inch belt is what I'm waiting on. And then I also ordered a go-kart. This was on a mud boat, so the exhaust comes out this way because the shaft is that way. So I ordered a new muffler that comes out and it's going to sweep up. It'll look pretty cool. So yeah, I got the high flow. I got to get my tack. This is the tack from my boat, so I got to mount it here now. And yeah, I'm just waiting on the belt to get the final position, and then you can see my hack job right here. I hacked it a little wider so the bolts a little longer so the bolts can get in. Going from a 7-horse to a 13-horse, the bolt pattern's different. You got to extend it out. And then here's once I get this on, I'll probably start working on my articulated tiller handle. Again, I'll either bolt it up to the side, or I can bolt it up underneath. I have enough room. I'll cut that to size, but then I have a 4 foot I think it's a 1/2 inch black pipe, and again I'll heat it up and bend it so it's off to the side. I'll probably put this on I think I told you earlier I've got an 18-foot by 48 John boat that's really leaky. I got it cheap with the trailer. I'm going to eventually put I got 2 of these motors. I was going to make dual scratchers for that. But in the meantime, I think I'm going to put this one on the 18-foot and see how it works. The only problem I think I'm going to have is just that starting ratio is going to be too high, or too, well, it's going to spin out. Where if I have dual motors on that boat, I'll have two wheels on the ice and it'll spin out. I think it'll spin better. And then I got to get a drains it hose to make draining the oil easier. I can't drain it from the back. Because I guess I could drain it. Oh, okay. Well, how many drain holes does this? Okay, well that's different. I didn't know the 459 only had a drain hole on this side, where the 420 has drain holes on either side. So I'll get a drains it hose so I can drain the oil without making a mess here. But she's almost built. I think I'll have it have this thing ready to go by first week of January, and that's going to be a big motor for a scratcher. And this motor worked really good on my tie longtail, so I think it's going to work really good on this scratcher. The way I've got it set up now, it spins up to about 4,100 RPMs. So I think it's going to go pretty fast. Besides that, I think this is going to work. I'm just worried that this clutch isn't big enough for the 16 horse motor. But that's what I've been doing over the holidays. Talk to you later.